and our group name is AAA, and our game is called Double Threat. I'm Agustina.
I'm Annika.
I'm Annika and I did the animation.
Okay, so we have a help button, and if you choose the help button, it'll show up with the directions, and basically if you roll a double, you can choose to roll again. If you get a higher score, it's going to add that to your score, and then if you get doubles when you roll again, 10 points will be removed. If you get double sixes, you get 1 point extra, and if you get double ones, you lose a point.
Okay, so on our code, we do have a help button, and if you click on it, the directions to play the game will show up. To code the directions, we just use a message box and listed all of the rules out.
Then we also have 2 check boxes, one for player 1 and one for player 2. And we coded it so that if you check the box that says player 1, the player 1 checkbox will get a value of 1 assigned, and the player 2 checkbox will get a value of false. And same thing happens when you do player 2. So the player 2 gets a value of 1 and the player 1 gets a value of false. And then this will be used when we're assigning the scores in the score chart.
Okay, so once you push your roll dice button, we have the randi function, so that way it generates a random number between 1 and 6 to simulate dice being rolled.
So then we also have the sound effects. So every time we roll the dice, the roll dice sound will show up, and we coded it with the audio read function. And then we have 2 different sound effects that will only show up in 2 different occasions. So if you roll dice 1 and dice 2 are equal and they're both number 1, we're going to have a crowd boost sound since we're getting a point deducted. And then if they're the same, since you get doubles, we get a yay sound since you're going to get the chance to roll again.
And then in order to simulate seeing the dice being rolled, we have dice images. And so if dice 1 equals 1, we have a bunch of if statements. So that way, if dice 1 equals 1, the image that shows the dice being 1 is turned on and the rest are turned off and they're hidden. And so we have 12 statements, so that way we can have it on either side, 6 images for each dice.
Okay. We also have animations here. So if player 1 reaches 50 before player 2, we have a GIF that will show up. We use the set function to show its visibility. If player 2 hits 50 first, we have a different GIF that says player 2 wins. And then if both dice 1 and dice 2 are 1, we have a separate GIF that's a booing GIF that goes along with the booing sound. And if both dice 1 and dice 2 are 6, then we have a yay GIF. Yeah.
Okay, next we coded our score charts within the dice button, so that way once you roll the dice, it'll update the score chart. So first, app.total is a global variable that I put into properties, so that way we can use it in our roll again dice button as well. But basically we initialized it to 0, so that way we can keep adding on, and it's the total. The total is dice 1 plus dice 2, because it's going to add up the values and then keep adding to the player's total. And so if the player 1 checkbox equals 1, we have it so that the data in the table will become the total, and this is just for player 1. And then if dice 1 and dice 2 both equal 6, it'll add a point to the table. And if dice 1 and dice 2 both equal 1, then it'll subtract a point from the table. And then we're using the sum function here. So in the edit field, it'll keep summing up all the rows in the table, and that's basically the player's total. So they can see each of their roles and the total. And then we have the same thing for player 2.
So since we want to play this remotely, we had to create a channel, and our channel had 2 fields. Field number 1 was for the score of player 1, so the player 1 edit field values. So we can see that we used the ThinkSpeak Write to write the value that we currently have in the edit field for player 1. And then we use the ThinkSpeak read to read the value that we have in that field from the different computer. And then we did the same thing for player 2. So our field 2 on our channel is the field for the scores of the second player. So we use the same function, but this time we use the second field instead of the field number 1. And we did the same thing with the ThinkSpeak read. And we had to use pause 1 for our delay time for write, and then for read the same thing.
Okay, so as we mentioned earlier, if both of the dice roll the same number, then you get the option to roll again. So we've coded the roll again buttons so that they're visible when you roll the same things. But if the two dice roll different numbers, then we've switched the visibility off, so you don't have the option to press the roll again button. And same thing with the pass turn button. Okay, so to code the roll again button, we use the same random function as the roll dice button. So there's a random number between 1 and 6, and our total is the total from dice 1 and dice 2. We used the set function to switch off the visibility. So once you press roll again or pass turn once, the visibility will switch off since you don't have the option to press it for a second time. To code the images of the dice, we use the same code as the roll dice function, which was just the set function.
Okay, so because there are modifications to how the roll again button is going to affect the score chart, we also have a little bit of code for the score chart coded into the roll again button. And so once again, if player 1 checkbox equals 1, it's going to go into the table for player 1. So if you saw above, we set another variable, total 2 equal to dice 1 plus dice 2 from the roll again. And so basically, if that total is greater than the original total from the first dice roll, you'll get those extra points. So that'll just be added onto your total. And so we have new data equals total 2, and then we are in this, we're adding it to the table. And then we also said in our rules that if you get doubles when you roll again, you're going to lose 10 points. So here we have that as well. And then we do the same thing, setting that if player 2 checkbox equals to 1, it's the same code, but it'll just add it to the player 2 table instead. And then once again, we have the same ThinkSpeak functions that we did in the roll dice button.
Okay, so if we can see, the game has started and player 1 has already rolled, and since they got double ones, they got the boo, GIF, and the sound. So as we can see, we got doubles, and now we have the chance to roll again and pass turn, and we also got the sound effect. And as you can see, since we got to over 50 before player 1, we ended up winning the game. We got the sound effects, the yay, and player 2 wins.
Player 1 rolled double sixes, so they got 12, and then because they rolled double sixes, they got an extra point, and the yay just showed up. Now player 2 rolls. Okay, so double sixes, so they got a 12 plus 1, and the yay just stayed. Okay, so as we can see, player 1 rolled, and they got double 1, so then they got a 2, but then they got a 1 point deduction, so now their point is 1 total, and they also got the boo GIF with the sound, so now we're gonna roll. And as you can see, we also got double ones, we got a point deducted, we got the GIF, and we got the sound effect. Okay, so for our last case, we're going to show how if you roll again and get doubles, it'll subtract 10 points. So first, we roll the dice, and we're getting double twos, so we have the option to roll again. And the yay sound comes up because we got doubles. And then once you roll again, it subtracts 10 because we rolled doubles again. And so that is minus points.